the story.
You had been through a lot, and a lot more than I had, when the moment came where your name did get called and all of a sudden you were on set. And at the time, I was brand new to it all. I had no idea what I was doing. I had really just decided I'm going to give this thing a shot. And then that moment happened for me, and it was awesome, but I was kind of lost. And I remember vividly, it was night, and we were in Lawrence, and that set was legit. I mean, that set was done up. That was big time. They had an entire street intersection looking like the 60s with the old school police cars and the storefronts and the outfits and hundreds of extras, like the patrons at the bar, the police officers, bystanders, all sorts of people. And I remember looking over at you and recognizing that you were in the fucking zone, dude. I am not kidding. Like, I was thinking in my head, this is really cool. I just got called. But I remember you were at one point, like, you were almost like talking to yourself, like getting into this. And then I saw you at one point banging out push-ups, and I actually had the thought, okay, Bennett, like, snap out of it right now, because that is a professional actor who's getting ready to go, and you need to, like, get in the zone. And I remember vividly seeing that you were. What was going through your mind in that moment? Like, you knew what the opportunity was, and you knew what it was. What was happening in your mind then and there?
Well, what's interesting is that, I think everybody that's been pursuing acting for a long time, know that these opportunities don't come very sort of often. If you're incredibly lucky, let's say you're born out in LA and you over time met countless different casting agents and et cetera. Over time, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, they know you, they believe in your work, et cetera. Then you get the opportunity to sort of do bigger parts for them. Me, I had, been in a few different theater productions and nothing professionally as far as film and TV goes. I had some footage as far as acting goes, but just from student films that I have done. Nothing major again. So for her to give you this opportunity to open up her film and lead the police force, to be the police sergeant of, not only, for the 15, 20 people there, but I had to also sort of learn how to pretend to be this sergeant who was trying to control, I think it was like 200-300 people.
Yeah.
Give orders, 200-300 people.
Yeah.
And so I had to do whatever I could conjure up, as an artist from all the years that I had studied, acting and you name it, to sort of really be fully in the game and to just, play the circumstances truthfully. I don't really believe that there's such thing as good or bad acting. I think it's either truthful or untruthful.
I love that. Yeah.
And for me, it was sort of like, how can I play these circumstances as truthfully as I can, without trying to overact or any of that stuff that sort of comes with the fears of having to do an incredible job under circumstances which you may not have had, and for the most part, most actors don't have, but somehow you sort of find that. And for me, it was, hey, here's Matt Buttman, this incredible producer who had done countless other work in the past, and Catherine Bigelow is sort of an incredible powerhouse, incredibly talented. They are giving you this opportunity, and you need to sort of kill it, or this may be the last thing that you'll ever get. And I think, as an actor, we're always sort of thinking, holy shit, what's next for us? And for me, it was like, hey, if I mess this up, this is going to be the last thing for me. So, push-ups, sit-ups, whatever I could. And after a while, to do two to three scenes, it just takes hours. So by me doing the push-ups and sit-ups was just trying to keep the energy up as far as continuity, because, you can't be in one scene all, riled up, and then 4 hours later when they're doing the other side, for you to just be sitting there chilling, because as far as continuity, that all gets lost. So I was just trying to be as truthful as I could, and it worked. It worked. So just really, making the best out of an awesome opportunity.
Well, it was clear, and again, I remember it pretty vividly, that you saw at the time what the opportunity was. And I'm curious to know, because I've seen your work, I've worked with you, I've read lines with you countless times, and I see how you can really just start to fall into like a different state of mind, whatever it is that's happening when you're taking on, the persona of a character, but through your own sort of, creation and artistry and truth, like you said. What's happening there when you do that? What is your thought process, your mindset? What is it allowing you to just sort of slip into something that is like totally outside of yourself, but at the same time, like from within?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, in every character, you bring a lot of parts of you into it. I think that's something that it's inevitable, right? You can't not use your deepest parts of your nature in any character that you come up with. But I think sort of what really happens is, you get this um, piece of paper that says they're looking for this whatever character it may be, and then but usually it comes under what casting agents or your manager and agent thinks that you can do. So in many ways, they're giving parts that they think you can pull off. And then from that moment, you read it countless times, you see the background of, you understand the background, the story, what's happening, who you're talking to, what the atmosphere is, what the circumstances are, stuff like that. And under those given circumstances, then you're just sort of able to somehow learn to tap into that energy frequency of that character. And I think the better your process, the deeper you can get into finding that character. And and I think you just sort of recognize it because it resonates with your deeper truth. Sort of the character that you envision sort of kind of comes alive. So it takes a lot of time trying different voices, different breathing techniques, different environments, imagining yourself in all sorts of circumstances. And then finally, you just sort of, come alive. And then I think it's hard to, fully explain it, but you just sort of know when you play, you realize, okay, this is the character that they're looking for here, and then you just sort of run with it.
Is it a combination of trying to understand, basically out of thin air or from the words on the page, perhaps, the perspective of the character, but at the same time, like for you, understanding that perspective, but through the lens of being able to like pull from your own experience and relate to the character? I always kind of wonder, like, I mean, that's a part of the process, right? It's this combination of like your own experience is brought to this person's perspective.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, you're sort of pulling out your own experiences. That's why I think most really, really good actors have gone through so much in life. Life has tested them in ways that are, in sort of unimaginable ways. I mean, look at the story of Keanu Reeves and then, Liam Neeson and these guys, and they have heartbreaking stories about, loss and pain and suffering. And so they're able to sort of bring these characters who are in deep pain, who are, in sort of incredible, you know, places in their life, and they do it somewhat so freely. I think, being an actor, being a really good actor, you're sort of an emotional athlete, and the deeper that you're willing to go and pull yourself back from it, from those experiences that, you know, they define some people, but other people are able to go back and forth and visit those sort of deep places in their conscious that have terrified them or left them scarred. They can visit them truthfully, sit with them, and then pull back. So I think that's part of becoming a really good actor is realizing what those set circumstances are, and then taking your own experiences, visiting them, staying with them truthfully, and then, when you're done with the scene, pull yourself back. Um, Sadly, a lot of actors have a really hard time doing that.
Pulling themselves back.
Right. Um, but those who are really good, like, Peter O'Toole is known for going and, doing Hamlet, and then, you know during the intermission he would go out and do his laundry and come back. I mean, it's sort of an incredible example. But there are amazing talent that are just so good at taking their mind to those places,
Yep.
and then pulling themselves back. And it's something that I've had to work constantly with various different actors, or characters rather.
Yep.
And so absolutely, you take yourself back to a very specific moment in time where similar things happen to you, and you just evoke all sorts of, emotions that are truthful. And when you do that, when you really commit to that, then I think that's where your finest work comes out.
Absolutely. I did a scene once, the movie American Psycho with Christian Bale.
Yeah,
I did a scene playing that character. And what I loved about acting was, I mean, a lot of what you said, where I think naturally, like, open sort of, like, people who are, whether it's emotionally or whatever it might be, like, you're willing to explore, the emotions of another person and understand them, and likely of yourself too. And to me, different people's stories and lives and exploring that was really cool. But I just remember playing that character and being like, all right, I'm going to try to think like this person. And I caught myself like, damn, this is kind of fucked up. Like, because that's what you're supposed to do. Like, and
exactly.
And when I did the scene, man, I went in. Like, I was like, I'm going to go all in on this. And I even had a girl in the class tell me afterwards, because there was like a group of people watching. She was like, I could tell that you were, and I didn't know if she was just bullshitting me or not, but she was like, she was like, I could tell that you were really like going into the mindset of that person. Like, I could see it in your eyes. And I was like, I was, because to me, that's just what, acting was. And I was like, I'm going to go in. And it was nothing compared to, like, stories you hear, but it was a little taste of playing something that is not just so much different than you, but something that is like twisted or dark. And when you go there, it takes you somewhere, kind of like unexplored and different.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think we all have, all of those traits within us, and it just comes down to which parts of our psyche and personality do we feed, right? We have warriors, we have murderers, we have all sorts of things that are within us, part of, who we are as humans. And so, obviously 90% of us never act on them, but they're there, they're dormant. And it's interesting because I just, when you think of parts that great actors play, like Christian Bale, who's sort of an incredible example. He's been able to not only exert his mind but also his body to limits that are, mind-boggling, right? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the was
Machinist.
the machinist, right?
Yeah.
Where he ate a can of tuna and an apple a day for so long, and then going back and forth to that. So it really is just for him. He's sort of a super rare example, but again, all of it I think comes down to becoming that sort of emotional athlete where you're able to really push your mind to places that a lot of people just don't want to because it is hard. It is incredibly hard to, get those parts of your psyche out that, that you don't really even want to explore because they're scary, you know, um, for the most part. Even for me at the beginning, but, over time you just sort of learn to take and release, what you need and what you don't need and just, and then it becomes fun because as an actor, I think one of the biggest blessings is that you get to play many parts without paying the price. You can be a thug, you can be a mafioso, you can be a cop, you can be whatever, and as long as you're sort of able to pull yourself back and realize that it's essentially just work, and work should only be means to your private life. If you can separate your art from your life, I think that's a secret that will make you a very successful artist. And but all those elements I think are all part of us that we just sort of learn to tap into for various specific reasons.
So, I mean, I know this about you just being, a good friend of yours for a long time, and you mentioned it earlier, coming to the United States from Kosovo at a time where your country was at war, and obviously for you that's a lot, more than I or most could even imagine. And I'm curious to know, you mentioned it being therapeutic or somewhat of a release for you in your own psyche. What is the connection between like those parts of your mind, things that maybe you've seen or, thoughts that lay dormant, whatever they might be, and the and the relationship with acting and how it is therapeutic and how it can be somewhat of a release, and maybe even how you can channel some of those experiences of your own and bring them to your performance and the character in a way that for you is not just gratifying and makes for a great performance, but can be, have that sort of a positive effect as well. What does that all look like and mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's something that I've learned to take a crutch. I've learned to take sort of a traumatic experience and sort of turning around and give it my own definition, taking the power away from it, as opposed to saying, I'm a victim and life has been hard and feel sorry for me or whatever the case may be. And then I said, you know what? Let me just use that as a tool. Let me take that pain and convert it into something positive, because ultimately we all have that choice, regardless to what we've been through or what has happened in our life. We can always take that and make something great of it. We can use it as sort of powerful roots that sort of give color to your being, as opposed to saying, going with that victim mentality. Oh, I've had a horrible life and now I have PTSD and I have depression and anxiety and blah blah blah. So I should just really, take it easy about life because I've had such a hard childhood. And frankly, that would have been okay. It would have been justified. But at 11, Peter Sellers was doing this play called Children of Heracles, which was exactly about refugees. And I was at a program at Harvard at the time, a phenomenal program actually, that took a lot of refugees from Chechnya at the time, Darfur, Colombia, places that were going through their own sort of, turmoil, and, helping them, acclimate or get assimilated to, life in the U.S. But Peter Sellers was like, hey, let's bring these refugees and give them a platform here. And so we're there, we're doing our thing. This is me at like 12 years old, 11, 12 years old. And when I got on stage, they were interviewing me about, Christopher Lydon was interviewing me and asking me questions about, what the story was like, how I made it, etc. And after that, then we would do the show. And then for me, it was that first moment where I said, wow, this is a huge blessing. I can come out here without being judged, without having to worry about my voice or how I talk or how I sound or anything. I can just literally come out here and speak my truth. And then I realized the moment that you start caring about the audience, they stop caring about you. And for me, that was a huge revelation where I could just go on stage and I could just speak my truth freely. And so various different, parts later, I come to realize that I can use those emotions of trauma and war and uncertainty and take them as tools towards, building various different really colorful characters. And that whenever I get triggered, I can just release and I don't have to suppress and hold it in. So that was a, realization that I had, and sort of a big light bulb came on that acting for me was a great vehicle where I could just do my thing. And then I started having fun and playing with various different accents and mastering them over time, to the point where it became really, really fun. So, again, just really taking, sort of a shitty opportunity and turning into something positive. And I think that's something that it helped me realize to take in all aspects of life. When something really bad happens to you, you don't just sit there and say, shit, this is horrible, but you actually take it and then sort of move on. Because, what am I supposed to do as a kid at 11? You say, fuck it, I'm traumatized for life. Life sucks. Let me just close down shop and,
Well, you certainly haven't done that. And that's beautiful, man. And that's deep. And I've seen that in you myself. And I wonder, the same way you've been able to take these experiences and channel them into characters and through acting, 9 years as a professional actor, even though you've had success already, is a fucking grind. And I know that you're not where you want to be as far as achieving all the success you want to in your career. Have those experiences helped propel you and drive you forward through, the grind that being a professional actor is, not just in a performative way, but in a way that's kept you strong and driven and motivated? That sort of, pain or whatever it might be, is that a part of what's, kept you fighting this whole time?
Partially, for sure. And I think what happens after a while, I mean, it's definitely, not where I want to be by any means, but at the same time, like, we ain't even OB here, right? Like, so realizing that, I shouldn't have been at this position where I am in the first place gives me such great sort of power and momentum sort of move forward. Because I know a lot of incredibly talented people that sort of never work. And so, partially because of that, because I'm like, hey, at least I'm alive and you're not here. I survived all that. But at the same time, here I am. I'm literally getting to live my dream. I'm getting to work with amazing actors that I've sort of looked up to and that I've admired my whole life. And, that as slow as it has been, up to this point, it's really nothing to complain about, because every sort of every like Will Smith says, you don't go out building a big wall. You go up and you just lay every brick the most perfectly possible way to lay that brick, and then next thing you know, over time you have this amazing wall. So I think for me, it's just now I'm focusing on every single opportunity that I get. I want to make sure that it's that I do an incredible job at all of them, so that it helps me get to where I want to be. And I think so long as I have this momentum and I keep moving, and I believe in myself, and I take care of myself mentally, physically, psychologically, with nourishments, with thoughts, with having the right people around me, with making the right decisions, with how much I drink, or how much I run, or how much I drink water, and having all sorts of these elements that help define you as an artist, and as a person, then I think I'll be okay. And of course, we all have moments where we doubt ourselves, and we doubt the process. There are days I wake up and I'm like, you're just kidding yourself. You're never gonna make it. Just to stop. The odds, are forever against you, right? But then that day passes. I get a good night's sleep, and I wake up the next day and I say to myself, you're really close, and you've done an awesome job, and you have all these parts now under your belt. And now all these opportunities are coming up. So you just learn to sort of dance with your thoughts, your emotions, your doubt, your fear, your ambition, and you rest. And then when you do all those things, then you sort of learn to choose, or pick and choose, the thoughts that empower you, that build you, as opposed to not taking care of yourself and being tired and being exhausted, and then
those thoughts choose you when
exactly.
you're run down and shit, and
exactly,
and you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect way to put it, is you wanting to choose those thoughts when you're on top of your game, and
right.
That can make all the difference in the world. And that's an amazing way to look at it, and it's a lot easier to achieve if you are taking care of yourself properly, and fueling yourself in ways that will just sort of make it almost effortless to fall into that state of mind, versus having to like battle your own mind to such a more intense degree, which sometimes can just be a game that you're not going to win at that point.
Yeah, but at the same time, it all really takes practice.
Right.
Some of the oldest philosophy is know thyself. Figure out what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and that's your responsibility. Figure out how much you can drink per week, where it's not going to affect you mentally, physically, psychologically. Figure out what you need to eat to be sort of optimal performance level. Figure out all sorts of things, and that's where work comes in, because nothing worth having is ever given to you. We all have to sort of fight for it. We have to fight for things that we want really hard, and I think that's where discipline comes in, which I believe is the sort of greatest form of self-love. And but it takes effort. It takes sort of daily conscious effort to wake up. I'm grateful for this day. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for all these amazing opportunities. Thanks for my health, for my family, for my friends. Start focusing on things that you're really blessed for, and next thing you know, your mind has just sort of shifted from, oh fuck, here we go, another day.
It makes all the difference in the world. It's something that we've been talking about
Huge,
recently,
yeah.
And I actually think that large in part it's just sort of overlooked, or it's become so common. What a normal lifestyle is, and how much of that is just not taking care of yourself whatsoever at all. Like, for it to just be the weekend, and you're going to start binge drinking, and those are going to turn into late nights, and then you're probably not going to have some good food. I mean, this is something that I've experienced. It's
Yeah.
incredibly common. And to be in this place now where, for me personally, there's more that I'm wanting, that I'm, trying to chip away at and get the ball rolling with, and almost less that I have, in terms of like certainty or stability. So I feel the weight of everything more, and
Hmm.
I feel the moments like 10x that I just let myself go. And on the flip side of that, when you put in a few weeks of real dedication and focus and doing all the things you're supposed to do, I'm starting to recognize how crazy it is, the like like you said, really what it means to change gears and go somewhere where you are empowering yourself to, move in ways that you have not probably that you haven't really experienced.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's I think that's where obviously work discipline, et cetera, comes in. But how do we really know what our limit or what our limits are if we really haven't pushed ourselves far beyond them?
Mm.
I guarantee you that if you were to go around and ask about 80% of people, 90 maybe, um, you know that they've all sort of they'll tell you that they've probably never peaked their how far they can run, how fast they can run, or how much they can focus, or how long can they study, or how many books they can read, or stuff like that. I think, um, and I think a lot of it comes from fear of failure, and a lot of it comes from self sabotage, where we don't really give everything that we can, because what if we gave everything we had and we fail? Our ego can't handle it, right?
Mm.
So I think a lot of us really just give 90% and we fail, and we're like, oh, well, had we only given another 10%, we would have kind of made it. And we spent our entire fucking lives with 85 to 90% of our capabilities, as opposed to just trying 100%. And even if you fail at 100%, 9 times out of 10, that 10% could really make you an extraordinary human being, right? But I think that's something that takes a lot of discipline, a lot of effort, a lot of failure, to the point where you build calluses in your brain where you're like, you know what? So who cares if I fail? Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out there on stage and I'm gonna fall flat on my face and I'm gonna have 300-400 people laugh at me.
Yep.
But you have to be willing to put yourself out there if you really want maximum life and the best out of life. And I think, for me, I can't really have it any other way. Like, I have to, you know, give it my all, because I think that's sort of where you know yourself, or at least for me, it's like where I'm at my happiest, figuring out what my limits are and how can I constantly push them and just get better. You know.
I think that there is it's really interesting because social media conversations, they're littered with people talking about self-improvement and what they can do to be better, and I am absolutely one of those people, and everybody has right in front of them a list of what you need to do to basically become the version of yourself that you are looking towards in the future and imagining and wanting to become. I mean, I could sit here for 30 seconds and do it right now.
Right.
But something weird happens for everyone, or I should say, it happens maybe in a different way for everyone, or there's some process that needs to be experienced or endured, and maybe it's different for each person, so that you reach a point. It's almost like a breaking point. Something
Mm-hmm.
happens, something checks off in your mind, maybe a drastic change in environment, or a wrench thrown into things and you're uncertain as to what's going to happen, or you've been wanting something that you can no longer go without, whatever it might be. or maybe it's just the recognition of the self-sabotage or the fear of failure, or I mean, it could be anything, but I feel like it's a personal process and
Yeah.
something happens where you reach a breaking point, and clearly when it comes to like your full potential and what that would be and what it would mean and
Yeah.
what it would feel like, it's obviously not that easy to fulfill because
Right.
everyone knows how to do it, and yet it's
Right.
still so fucking hard. Why? I don't. What
Well,
is it?
I agree. I mean, I honestly, I think it's just a matter of, I think we're creatures of habit,
Yep.
and we seek comfort over pain, you
Mm.
know. And for me, it's like, I look for uncomfortable situations deliberately so that I can get better, because that's the only way I think we as humans can get better, is by deliberately putting ourselves in situations that make us feel uncomfortable,
That's where
because
you
we're not
grow.
used to it. That's what growth is. Everything else is just the mundane, the everyday.
Yeah.
And
And if
you
you had
know,
to define growth in that sense, I mean,
yeah,
it's not growth is a, you know, I think anybody listening would know what we're talking about, but it's vague and it means something more specific to like your your something happening to your mind. Like what is it when you're in that those uncomfortable places and you're actually putting yourself out there and you're feeling the fear and overcoming them, you know, up top, what do you think it is that's really taking place?
well, I read this quote one time that said, a master finds comfort in the uncomfortable.
Hmm.
And it just takes a lot of time for you to sort of get to wherever you need to be. Now it's all different for everybody, but I think whatever your comfort, wherever your comfort zone is, there's no growth there. You're just sitting there doing the same things over and over again, and you get so comfortable to the point where anything uncomfortable scares you. And after 5, 6, 7, 8 years of doing the same job or whatever it is that you're doing that you're unhappy with, the fact that you're so, you know, comfortable there, makes you feel terrified to have to, move out and pursue your dream, write that book or write that screenplay or, whatever it is may be. I think all of us have are things that we do, and then the things that we wish or that we're going to do one day, and then
Hmm.
that day sort of never kind of fully comes because life gets in the way, and life will always get in the way. But we all have the same amount of hours in the day. Jeff Bezos, Oprah, I can go far as back in history as all your greatest favorite artists and warriors or singers, you name it, and they've all had the same, hours in the day as all of us, right? But I think, you know, for me, it has been, because performing in these things were never sort of natural culturally and stuff like that. But I deliberately focused on things that were making me uncomfortable, and I was telling myself, you know what, I'm just gonna go there. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna perform here. I'm gonna do that. And next thing you know, I'm in front of amazing actors and amazing directors and people that I've always looked up to. We have Schreiber and John Voight and Saoirse Ronan and you name it. These guys that I've guys and gals that I've looked up to for so long, and naturally, had I not put myself in uncomfortable situations for the past 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I would have probably been super startled and scared and oh shit.
Hmm.
And you still sort of get scared when you're put in those positions where now you have to fucking perform, or the whole day is ruined and your manager looks bad, the casting agent looks bad, and then you're just shunned for life. So, um, you know, you really have to deliberately put yourself in an uncomfortable situation to the point where that those situations become part of your identity, part of sort of who you're becoming. Um, so yeah, avoid comfort, avoid. I mean, it obviously all of us seek it. It's part of our nature, but let's limit it to like maybe one day a week, or like maybe twice a month or 3 times a month or whatever, so that we look forward to those days where we can have 5, 6, 7 slices of pizza or whatever the case may be, and not do that every day. Not can't wait to get out of work so I can crack a beer and have a pizza
Yeah.
and just dull my senses to sleep so I can begin this fucking vicious cycle
I
over and over again.
Yeah, I 100%. And I'm actually going to turn this light on real quick. Hold on. As the sun goes down,
As the sun goes down,
it looks like I'm just sitting
There's a
here in a
song.
dark room. Yeah, I was just going to say that I actually think it is, for people who are in that sort of a situation, it's probably like a symptom of something deeper at play, which is they have to be dissatisfied with something. Like you talk about work to my day's over, I'm going to grab a pizza and a beer. There's probably something happening there where you're just not happy with what's going on. And I feel like until you really break that mold and change it, then I personally have experienced times where, based on what my environment is or what my situation is, as in what I'm doing and what my job is and what my day to day is in my routine, it can have everything to do with, basically my drive or my mood being elevated or me feeling like shit. So I actually think
Yeah.
that there can be a lot more at play, with anybody who is really struggling with getting themselves going and like getting closer to that person that they want to be or whatever it might be. And I think sometimes a drastic change can actually, it's almost like maybe it's what's required to some extent.
Yeah, but oftentimes that change either never happens or it happens by accident,
Right.
or you're forced into it, or and that's what's sort of crazy is that we have to put ourselves consciously and deliberately in those positions if we want to change things. Um, you know, and really there'll always be excuses why things didn't work out for you, and they will all be justified. I mean, if I were to quit 5, 6 years ago, because I went to New York and I couldn't do it, and I moved to LA and things weren't working quite, and then this and that, and yeah, it would have been justified. Yeah, Mason went out there and he couldn't do it. It was a really tough industry. People will understand. Yeah, it was really tough. It is tough. Why should he break through? You know, but fuck that, right?
Yeah.
So I had to sort of let me put myself in a position. Let me make myself so good at what I do that that my talent is sort of undeniable. Let me seek the toughest classes, the toughest critics, whatever the case may be. Um, and if it means that much to you, if you want something that much, then you're going to get it. But you really have to want something. And for a long time, a lot of people are like, well, I don't know what I want, and I don't like anything, and I don't know what to do. And well, how can you know if you never really tried anything? And granted, a lot of them are in positions where they're locked in with a really tough job where they have to perform daily, constantly, and maybe they have a family and they have to feed and stuff like that, where they feel like, what, their life becomes about their kids and those around them, and so they sort of become sacrificial to their clan, to their tribe. And but I don't necessarily believe that it should be like that. I think we should seek deeply and hard to sort of find out who we are as humans and nourish those artistic parts of our soul, because we're multidimensional beings. We're not just one thing. We're not just actors or writers, or there's all sorts of parts that we've yet to sort of uncover about ourselves. And I think, I remember a quote by Thoreau who says, most people lead lives of quiet desperation and go to their grave with their song still in them. And for me, it was like, no, fuck that. I'm not gonna let my song die with me whenever my sort of, no pun intended, my episode is done on this earth. I want to make sure that I sing it, that I loudly and proudly, and that I find ways where the highest parts of my being can have the courage to live the life that I want. And so whatever parts of you are stopping you, back, it doesn't matter. Just have faith. Feed your mind, feed it faith, feed it love, feed it whatever you need to do. Just sort of do it. And I think, regardless of what your circumstances are, if you want to change things, if you want things bad enough. But again, if you're incredibly happy with the life you have, then, who's to say that you should do anything else? Just do you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's I think that quote, for me, it's, many men lead lives with quiet desperation, is, it's all time for me. And you learn even in your first 25 years of life, let alone, probably your first 50, that there will be a million excuses along the way as to how that quote and what it means can get lost, and how you can, I mean, think about it, man, go to your grave, with your song still in you, simply meaning, in my mind, whatever life it is that you're living in your head that you wanted, whatever person you wanted to be that's different than who you are, or it didn't happen. And to me, when I just think of the bottom line, that's like the scariest thing I can think of, and how easy that can get lost, and that not being the priority, and how hard it can be to make that the priority is, it's a scary idea. But to me, it's like, it's all that, I want life to be, is just unleashing that, and letting it out, and making sure that when the time does come, there's no quiet fucking desperation there. Like, you did it.
Right, yeah.
You did it all. You did, at least you fucking went for it. You know what I mean? Like,
at least you went for it, and you fell on your face many times, and that's okay too. It's okay to fail. Just fucking fail. Go out there and fail.
Well, sorry, go ahead. My bad.
No, I was just gonna say, Phil Jackson's got another great quote where it says, "All the hard work in the world isn't gonna guarantee you anything, but without it, you're guaranteed nothing."
Mm.
I think, and it's really true, because, looking back, at my life, we had lost everything during the war. I had no means of, getting to Emerson College, or, funds, or whatever the case may be, to move out to New York, move out to LA, because it's all fucking, everything costs money. Everything is superbly expensive, as everyone knows, right? But the universe sort of works with you if you want something bad enough. It sort of conspires with you, and it's hard to explain this, but if you commit your mind to something, all sorts of, mythical creatures that you may not even see will come and guide your journey. And in the journey, you are going to, face demons and stuff you're going to have to slay, whether they're conscious or real, or, but if you want something bad enough, don't be afraid of, oh shit, I don't have money, or I don't have this, or the looks, or whatever. They will find a part for you. I mean, look at this face. I'm not going to win any beauty pageants, right? But I've been able to find more parts than I could have dreamed so far already in my life, So we really have to just trust it, trust our journey, trust the process, and just go out there and fucking fail. Doesn't matter. Fail 3 times. I don't even know how many auditions I've been turned down to because I didn't look a certain way, or wasn't big enough, or small enough, or curly enough, or straight enough, or blonde enough, or this enough, or that, and whatever the case may be, right? So what am I going to say after 80 of them that failed. Oh, this isn't for me. It's kind of like a baby, when they first started taking those awkward steps and they fall down. Does a baby ever say, "Fuck this walking thing is really not for me"? Fuck it. I'm just not gonna do it. So yeah, I mean,
because they don't know any better, man. They don't know any better, but just to fucking get back up again and
get back up and keep moving.
That's it.
But our mind just fucks us up.
It does, man.
We're conscious. We fail and let me go back to the safety thing because that felt better than this whole falling on my face type shit. But the beauty is that we can get over those things, right? We fall on our face a few times, and just when we're about to quit, we land something. Boom. So now self-confidence, your self-worth, your whatever, and you should also never base your self-worth on how many medals you win or how successful you become or whatever. I think that should just be. I think you should all of that. Your self-worth and everything should really be independent of like, how far or how many toys you have or how rich you are or whatever. But all has been for me is just really not given into all the demons or whatever the case may be, because I think we all have similar voices that tell us, I don't think you can do this, or you're not good enough for this, or you're not good enough for that, but I think we can really overcome them by rewriting our thought process, how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves, how we think about our potential, how we think about our skill set. And granted, if you haven't done the work, subconsciously you will know, and you can't lie to your subconscious. There's a great book called The Inner Game of Tennis, and how tennis players, when they're serving and it hits the line or it's a bad serve, they yell at themselves, "God damn it, so and so," and they know that because subconsciously you can't lie to yourself if you haven't done the work, So you have to do the work, obviously, but at the same time, go out there, fail again, fail better, fail bigger, and then that's how you develop self-confidence, self-worth towards, and then next thing you know, like right now, you can put me in front of any actor or director, and I will hold my own without having any problem. And it's never been forever. That hasn't been who I am, 6-7 years ago. But 365 days times 6 is a long time to work on yourself. It's amazing how good you can become at anything if you really consciously commit yourself to something for a while.
Yeah.
Because in whatever industry, there's only about 2 to 3% of people that become really successful, and it's because they're willing to do what the rest aren't willing to do. And I think we have to really look deep within ourselves and figure out what it is that we want to do, and then have the courage to chase that.
I think that's what it is. I think bottom line is that it is courage, and just thinking more about it and us talking through it. I mean, fear is a crippling thing, and everybody does know what to do. You can see it and find it and hear it any which way you look, but nobody can overcome whatever demons that you're dealing with for you. That's not a thing that can happen. And if what you're dealing with that is preventing you from simply taking the first step to breaching your comfort zone, and I totally agree with what you said about, consciously putting yourself in situations, even if it's unconscious, you didn't decide it. You're going to grow. You're going to improve because you're uncomfortable. So I think it really is overcoming whatever fear it is that's in you that's holding you back. And at the very least, there is something that lies on the other side, regardless of what happens, on the other side of that fear. And if it comes to, hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? if I moved towards this fear and tried to overcome it. I would die. That's the worst thing that could happen. But guess what?
Right.
It's worth dying for. So be it. I'll die. Like, you'll die for that then.
Yeah, and it and it's not going to hurt then. I mean,
And then
you're already dead. Game over. You're already dead.
But brother, so, the last thing I wanted to ask you here, and then we can wrap it up. And I appreciate. I love hearing you talk about acting and your perspective. I know how passionate you are about it, how many cool things you've done, and the way that you use, your past and your experiences professionally, personally, and through these characters, I think is, I think it's incredibly fascinating and powerful. And I think it's a lot of, what's made you who you are as an actor. And I appreciate you sharing it. And my last question for you. Yeah, thank you for that, my man.
Yeah.
Among some of your successes, you've worked with, Lieb Schreiber. You recently worked with Dennis E. Hall on Dexter, which they're filming a 10th season for. And you had a scene with Jon Voight as well. Jon Voight. Tell me, in those moments when you're just among savages, what does that feel like? And how does that elevate your game?
It really, just recently with working with Michael C. Hall on Dexter, great show, by the way, that I've watched for a long time. And here they are. They had wrapped up in 2012. I had just moved to California in 2012, and I remember watching it religiously and saying, "Wow, an amazing group of actors that came together and did this really experimental show about murder." And they had done things that hasn't sort of been seen before. And fast forward to a couple of weeks ago and now, from when I first met Michael C. Hall, and there with him, I can't give away the story, but I'm there talking, screaming, yelling, doing my thing, and I'm sort of this moment where it's like, oh shit, life is possible, and it's possible in the sense that dreams that you thought were almost impossible to achieve can happen to you. I remember, so many nights of just turned down and blah 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 for a long time, telling myself, hey, maybe I should just quit and get a job, right? But there's always that little voice in you that says, let's just keep going, one more day, let's take it a day at a time. And I think if you have that voice that sort of tells you that, then you should just keep nourishing it. And whether it's been with Michael C. Hall or Schreiber or Saoirse Ronan, or I don't want to just name drop out there, but it's great because all these opportunities just help you realize that all these people that you deem to be incredibly great, or extraordinary people, are all really just people that have found a way to do it, that have, they're no different than you and I, by any means. It's just, that they were willing to do what a lot of people weren't sort of willing to entertain for a long time. And I think that's all there really is to it. Just finding ways to live the person who you thought could become. And all these opportunities really helped me realize that, now I'm in the arena, and, my, people that I've looked up to, for a long time are not sort of these beings that are out of this world or unattainable, but that they all have fears and problems and issues, and just like the rest of us. So, and the dream and the life that we want is out there, and is possible, and that we can live it. We just have to be willing to do, a lot more than we're used to.
So beautiful, my man. Just keep listening to that voice. That's all there is.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap it up right there, dog. That was beautiful.
Love it, brother. Thank you for your time. Thanks for having me. It's been great. Let's just keep ascending. Keep sending each other love. Keep uplifting each other, because that's what strong people do, and that's how you get stronger in turn. Whatever energy we send out there sort of comes back. So let's stay true to that.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we'll save the road trip ones for next time, because we got to get into those at some point.
Oh my God, yeah.
But until then, thank you for doing this. And we went an hour and 10 minutes just now, so
wow,
not bad.
Damn. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yes, it does. Thank you, my man. I will talk to you very soon, dog.
You got it, brother.
See you, bud.
Take care.
You too.
Stay strong.